Welcome into America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula and America's Medicare Associates. Securities offered through Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Advisory services offered through the Retirement Guys Formula. Registered investment advisor. America's Retirement Headquarters, America's Medicare Associates, and the Retirement Guys Formula are separate and independent entities from Peak Brokerage Services, LLC. Welcome back to America's Retirement Headquarters, home of the Retirement Guys Formula, Retirement Tax Partners, and America's Medicare Associates with Nolan Baker. ARHQ.com is the website. 419-794-3030 is the phone number. Don't forget, if you missed the first half of the show or you want to catch up on America's Retirement Headquarters, it's available on demand, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you consume your media. Just search for America's Retirement Headquarters there for you to check out at your leisure. Now, would your portfolio be more successful with a high-priced Wall Street hotshot? According to the new numbers, over the last 10 years, a simple index fund actually beat the big stockbrokers 85% of the time. To quote Warren Buffett, people will try and sell you other things because there's more money in it for them if they do. Most good salespeople believe their own baloney. That's why I suggest people buy an index fund. The man had a quote for everything. A retirement plan can't just be owning an index fund, though, and pulling money out as you need it. What more should people think about?
Well, can you only retire with an index fund is really kind of the question. And, you know, if you look at it, what if I told you retiring with only index funds could be a disaster, or it could be your ticket to financial wealth and building more financial wealth? You know, the answer really depends upon four crucial factors that most people really don't pay attention to. I can think, you know, in the past 30 years of being in the financial services business and the hundreds of families that I've worked with, you know, one guy in particular that stands out is a gentleman who retired, worked at a local factory for the overwhelming majority of his life. He went and, you know, had his investments in the indexes in the market and retired in 2007. We now know, looking back, what happened in 2008 with, you know, major market losses. All of a sudden, taking withdrawals from his account, he was way upside down pretty fast. It turned out to be ultimately a disaster, having money just in the index funds that he had. On the flip end of the scale, I can think of some people that have come out to the events, older people that maybe have saved up and they have, you know, strong sources of income. Maybe they have a pension. Maybe they still do consulting work. Maybe they're getting a business buyout. You know, people that have saved more than enough money that they're going to need for their lifetime. So they've saved and accumulated probably a bigger net worth than they have. And they're the type of person that doesn't get emotionally upset about the market with the volatility. You know, those people can ultimately create bigger financial wealth by having some of the index equity options inside of their portfolio. And there's really, I think there's going to be four make or break factors here in determining what could be the right approach for you, and is a index fund only solution right for you. Number one is I want you to look at what your income needs are in retirement. I want you to consider what percentage of your income are you going to need to take from withdrawals out of your retirement account. And, you know, the concern that I would have is if your withdrawal rate and you're young in your retirement years is greater than 4, 5, 6%, the challenge that you run is the sequence of return risk that you have with the lottery of the return of the stock market. You know, I would agree over the long term, index investing worked great for growing and saving and accumulating dollars. My son, as an example, who works here at the firm, I think just buying the broad market equity indexes while he's in his 20s is great growth strategy over time. Doesn't need to have to worry about figuring out the market for his retirement account. Where when you look at somebody that is within 5 years of retirement and or just transition into retirement, the strategy of grow, grow, grow for many retirees changes to income. And a lot of the index options that are out there aren't necessarily designed for providing what could be the best approach to generate income. Number two is I want you to look at your risk tolerance, and I want you to look at who you are and what your comfort level of risk is. Can your portfolio survive a market crash, especially when you switch from saving and investing to pulling money off of that account? Number three, what I want you to do is I want you to think about what is the flexibility that you have in spending. You might have some flexibility if you have strong sources of reliable income that cover the essentials in life. Maybe you're a little bit more flexible in that case. And what that means is that, if you're index investing in the years like this year and the previous 2 years when the market's outperforming historical averages, those are the years where you do a little bit more flexibility in your spending. You do a little bit more to enjoy things. But you also have to be willing in those years where the market doesn't perform to be more flexible. And the way that I think people can be flexible is make sure that you're covering, again, your essential needs in life with non-index, non-equity type of investments. Build that reliable essential income cushion first and use your equity investments to enjoy all the fruits of your labor, the excess in life, and be adaptive to what the market conditions are. You could be at risk as if you need the income from your equities to live off of to cover your income goals, because again, the first time the market has a bad downturn, and if that happens early on in your retirement years, you can be in big trouble. And the fourth category would be to think about legacy goals. I had mentioned a gentleman in particular that stands out. He has a lot of income from some other sources. He's built up a great nest egg. His goal is kind of shifted a little bit more. He still wants to grow his assets, but legacy planning is more important to him. So, being growth minded and looking at ways to build that legacy is more important to him. So step number three is, looking at, again, what that sweet spot scenario is. So where I'd say I give you the green light of index investing is if your withdrawal rate is very low. So maybe it's minimal, anywhere from 0 to 3% is kind of what that withdrawal rate that you're going to need on your retirement accounts. It gives you flexibility to be able to kind of ride some of the volatility in the market. Number two, a green light could be if you have multiple income streams. So strong Social Security, you've optimized that approach. You have a pension. Maybe you're working part-time and you have other sources of income like rental income. So multiple income streams allow you to be more indexed and invested in your portfolio that's in the market. Number three is if you have a high risk tolerance. So think about, the tariffs that we had in 2025 and we saw the market sell off pretty quick in a short amount of time. Did that emotionally bother you? Was that leading you to second guess your decisions? Or have you made a decision after a market decline or market rally that you look back and say, that was an emotional decision. I shouldn't have made that decision. But, if you're a type of investor that you're comfortable with higher risk, you're going to look at market sell-offs and try to identify opportunities and not panic, then you might have the green light on index investing. And again, if you have that large portfolio as a cushion, you have big dollars that are able to give you the peace of mind that say you're never going to outlive your money. You have the ability then to make your money work a little bit harder. The four areas where maybe it's a kind of a danger zone and where index funds could backfire on you is number one is, as I mentioned before, that sequence of return risk. I'll give you an example here. You have two retirees, both have $500,000 saved up. They're both planning to withdraw $20,000 a year and adjusted for 3% inflation over time. They both, over the course of 25 years, earn a 7% average rate of return. The only difference is what happens between when the negative rate of return happens in the stock market. So the retiree A, who has strong early market performance, meaning he has the good sequence of return, his portfolio, if the market goes up 20% and then 10% and then 15%, he stands in a strong situation that his dollars continue to grow. In fact, he might even end up having more money in 25 years from now than when he started out because of those positive numbers in the beginning. Yet retiree B has poor market timing, meaning that the market simply didn't work out. And keep in mind, he has they have no control over when the market does what they do. So in the portfolio with the bad sequence, the $500,000, again, taking those withdrawals out, having a 15% decline, the next year having a 20% decline, still taking the withdrawals out, the third year having a 10% decline, still taking those withdrawals out. All of a sudden, 3 years into it, the portfolio is down to almost half, like $253,000. And by the 18th year, the portfolio is completely depleted. So retiree B, who faces early losses with making withdrawals, locking in those losses, even though the market eventually recovered again over that same 25-year time frame, the rates of return, their portfolio never did. So again, here's the takeaways. Same returns, different outcomes, both retired at the same age, but sequence of returns matters in retirement time. So when you're thinking about retirement, the problem with indexed-only investment is you have less reliable income, you have maybe no guaranteed income, you have to check how you are with the volatility of the market, making sure that you're not the type of an investor who's going to make that emotional trap when the markets go one way or another. There can be better alternatives. The things that we talk about, the approach that we have here is called the independent income system. And in that strategy, what we do is we talk about building out different buckets of money. A bucket of money for an emergency account, a bucket of money designed to provide reliable income, an account designed to give you a pay raise. And then that allows you to have a bucket of money that you can have invested in index or equity type of investment, because you still need to have money for your long-term growth, and that helps out as well. So what I want you to do, and your takeaway from this, is I want you to calculate what your withdrawal rates are. Again, if you're in the danger zone, be careful about that sequence of return risk. I want you to be honest with yourself about what would you do if the market had a 20 or 30% sell-off. And if you're the type of person that would, be caught or have already made some type of emotional decision in the past, you may not be comfortable with the volatility of equity-only index investing. I want you to do an inventory of your income sources. Do you have a variety of income sources, or is your retirement account going to be the primary or one of the biggest sources? You want to know what your strategy mix is. And when the last item is when to get professional help. Sometimes getting professional help can help you coach through those tough times that you have as well, and help you figure out what could be your best approach in determining how to allocate your retirement funds to help you with the journey that lies ahead.
As the saying goes, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And that's the truth when it comes to retirement as well, because there are portions of your money that are going to be utilized for different things. Finding that right blend depends case to case, obviously. And the team at America's Retirement Headquarters can help you with that. Start developing those buckets of income. Start developing that plan to get you to, through, and beyond retirement. ARHQ.com is the website. The phone number to set up a time to speak with them, 419-794-3030. Nolan, I want to talk about one of my favorite topics, putting your money to work for yourself. Retirement done right can be not just comfortable, but even better than the working years. But whether you're already there or you're just dreaming of that day, there's 5 key steps, correct me if I'm wrong, that can help you reach that point faster and stay there longer. So let's dive into what it really means to make someone's money work for them.
I believe there are 5 steps to put your money to work. Being a retirement specialist for the past 30 years, I can think back and I can think of a couple memorable moments in, my working career. And one of them was when I got together with a client, and her and her husband were in for their annual review. And what we were doing is we were going over their income sources. So we were looking at all of the different incomes that they were getting: income from Social Security, income from the annuities that they had, income from the dividends and interest that they were getting from their stock and bond portfolio. And what happened is the wife spoke up in that meeting, and she said that the income that they're getting now in retirement time was more than what they were making when they were working. And, I think it was at that point that family really experienced, a time in their life that they knew they had a reliable and relaxing retirement really for years to come. And if you're watching this, you've probably at some point experienced it in one year or another, but, maybe have never realized that. Others, might feel that this day's never going to come fast enough. Really for everyone, what I can talk about is the 5 steps that can be taken to help you get there quicker and keep you there longer. Number 1, I want you to cut and or eliminate debt. It is rare that I meet with a retired couple who has a large amount of debt and is living their best years ever and living comfortable. One way to eliminate your debt is to kind of write down the totals of each debt, and starting with the lowest balance, put all the extra monthly income that you have to eliminate that smallest debt and get rid of it. Once that debt is paid off, and then you're going to move to the next lowest balance debt, paying that off. And that debt elimination plan is going to really help you make your money work harder. It's going to give you a lot more freedom. And especially in retirement time, if you look at not having a mortgage or debt, the cash flow that's going to add back into your pocket is going to allow you to have much more freedom that you have as well. So you want to be careful about taking on a big, large debt right at retirement. Also, you might follow that rule of advice, but it is easy sometimes. I've seen people slip back into that trap of, I'm just going to put it on credit card this month. And all of a sudden, I get back together with them a couple years later, and now their credit cards are back up with large balances as well. So, once you cut that debt, you've got to stay away from that debt. Literally cut it, get it out, keep it away from you as well. Number 2, what I want you to do is I want you to work on cutting your fees and expenses. I want you to review the internal fees and expenses of your investment holdings. This is an area that sometimes can be difficult because some fees are disclosed, other fees are kind of buried in it. It makes it a little bit harder. You have to do your homework. But cutting 0.5% or 1% in fees and expenses can make a major difference over a 20 or 30-year retirement journey that is going to last a long time. Various financial products charge fees and expenses differently. Some products, again, they print them on the statement so you know what the disclosed fees are. Other ones, they're kind of buried in a couple 100-page thick prospectus that it takes you some time to kind of go through and add up all of those different costs and expenses that you can have. At the end of the day, I think the cheapest isn't always the best, but cost absolutely counts. One of the nice things I think about the financial services industry in the last 30 years, what we've seen is that the general trend across the board in the industry is fees and expenses keep getting lower. I think about, some of the major players in the financial services industry right now, and, Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, those companies continue to compete against each other, a lower cost, make options more available. And in that situation, that investor typically wins when they have fees and expenses go lower. The third thing I want you to look at is I want you to look at your cutting of taxes and make sure that you have a very well thought out plan to try to minimize the taxes that you pay in retirement time. It's been my experience, there's a lot of great CPAs, there's a lot of great accountants that are out there. And what they're really good at is they're good at, filing taxes and, looking at the tax law, getting your taxes done, hopefully by that deadline of April 15th. The problem is the overwhelming majority of people that get their taxes done, after their taxes are filed, they put them in the file cabinet and they don't think about them again. I think you should fire your accountant. You should fire your CPA if once a year they're not doing a proactive tax planning meeting. Here it is. We're going into the fall. You should have a meeting set up. Your CPA or accountant should have proactively reached out to you and set up that meeting to look at, what are we going to do before the end of the year to try to minimize those taxes that you pay now? And what are you going to do to minimize the taxes that you pay in the future? The problem here is if we look at retirees, society has taught retirees that, save and invest in tax-deferred vehicles because your tax rate will be lower in the future. In 30 years of working with hundreds, if not thousands, of successful retirees, I would say oftentimes their tax rates are not lower in retirement time. They're out spending money. They're traveling, taking those cruises, doing those home repairs that they wanted to do, maybe helping out kids and grandkids. And so those successful savers that were taught that tax rates would be lower in the future are not necessarily that way. In the current administration that we have now, right, the big, beautiful bill, it gives us some guidance on the tax code for the next couple of years. But the reality is I think that taxes could be significantly higher for the majority of us, and even so for retirees, because you're going to lose the temporary increase in tax, savings that you have for being over 65. That's a temporary, not a permanent tax reduction. You also have the fact of the unfunded liabilities that we have. You also have the fact that the majority of the wealth for retirees in their retirement account. And so that could be an easy way for the government to raise taxes, is looking at your retirement accounts. You want to aggressively work on creating a tax reduction plan. How you do that is meet with your accountant, meet with your CPA. If they're not doing it, get a hold of our office, talk to Retirement Tax Partner. Danny can run a what-if analysis for you and see in black and white what you can do to minimize the amount of taxes that you're paying now, this year, 2025. What do you got to do before end of the year? Are there opportunities that you can miss out on if you don't take action now? And more so, what is the big roadmap? What's your tax roadmap look like to save money, not just this year, but in the future? That could be changing how you're saving and investing. Maybe the traditional tax deferred 401k maybe is not your best approach. Maybe you're better off taking and switching money over to like the Roth 401k. Are you even maximizing your ability to put contributions into a Roth IRA? So taxes can eat up a big part of your overall money in retirement time, and having a proactive tax plan to figure that out makes a ton of sense. The next area that you want to take a look at is getting the right mix for your entire portfolio. Again, having a pile of money and picking at it in retirement time is not a plan. Having your money invested into a target date retirement strategy could be a lazy way to do it. It's the easiest way to do it, but is that the right approach for you? If you're not going to get up and go to work every single day, you do not have the luxury of time to allow your money to be lazy in retirement. You have to make sure that you have the right mix of investments designed for the specific purpose on what they're going to accomplish, and then find the vehicle that best accomplishes that outcome, that provides the most results for what you're wanting to accomplish as well. So there's differences on what you're looking at when you're looking at fixed rate products. There's differences on when you're looking at, equities for the long term. Depending upon your time frame, long-term holdings can be great for equities, where, having an emergency bucket or a backup plan is also really good and important for the safety for a retiree. We've got more on that topic of the right mix. If you Google independent income system, you can watch the video of me kind of walking through the methodology and the philosophy that we have here on how to build that out. And the final item I want to leave you with today is I want you to grow productivity by increasing the yield on dividends, interest, and income producing assets. Last week, I got together with a couple and was going through a list of the assets that they had. And, what I had found is that they had a decent amount of money saved up in a traditional savings account. Now, if you looked at the surface of the savings account, they were earning about 3%. And thinking about it historically, I think 3% is probably a pretty good savings rate. Yet, when you compared what that savings rate is to other investment options that are still safe investments that are out there, there's probably a lot more choices that can make that money grow, increase the amount of income that they give by 50, 60, 70% more income. The same would be true as if you look at your portfolio and you have stocks and bonds in your portfolio. Increasing the predictable dividends that you have or the income that you get by 1 or 2%, and that compound growth that can create over the course of somebody's retirement, and or how much it could create for additional current income can be very important. I believe the more predictable income that you have in retirement time, the less you're going to have about the stress of the noise as well. So if you take those tips and you put all of those tips together for you, that is how you're going to make your money work a little bit harder for you. Consider getting an outside opinion. It could help you with what's called potential unintentional blindness. Maybe something's really obvious and easy for you. Something that could be hard for you to figure out might be something that's easy for somebody else to take a look at, and putting that all together to help avoid those costly mistakes and make sure that if you're not going to get up and go to work and you're getting ready to retire, your dollars work as hard as they possibly can.
The team at America's Retirement Headquarters, which includes Retirement Tax Partners, the Retirement Guys Formula, and America's Medicare Associates, can help you with that plan, help show where potential blind spots could be and how to make your money work as efficiently for you. We talk about risk tolerance very often here on the show. And yes, that does affect your balance, your overall balance, but these other things, taxes, fees, what have you, are things that take away from your bottom line. So finding ways to make it work efficiently for you is as simple as setting up a time to speak with America's Retirement Headquarters. You can go to arhq.com, schedule a time there, or give a call, 419-794-3030. One last time, that's 419-794-3030. As always, want to thank you so much for joining us here on America's Retirement Headquarters. Hope you have a great week ahead of you. Nolan, I know you've got a busy week ahead of you. Appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to spend with the listeners. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with the final word.
Yeah, going to be spending the next week working on, getting my son back to school. And, for those of you that are listening, take an hour, get to, back to education on your finances, whether it's subscribing to our YouTube channel, calling the office to set up a time to have a consultation, and just figuring out the ways to make your money work even harder. But, as we get back to school, I just want to, again, continue to wish everybody a wonderful week. We'll be right back next week here on Toledo's largest talk station, WSPD, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Remember, when you think retirement, think America's Retirement Headquarters. We're here for your entire retirement.
America's Retirement Headquarters is located at 1700 Woodlands Drive in Maumee, Ohio. You can reach them by calling 419-794-3030 or online at americasretirementheadquarters.com. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Nolan Baker is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstance. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Nolan Baker, Ohio Insurance License Number 27787.